Today's Leeds video, interesting stats on Weston McKennie, Adam Forshaw's Leeds future, Diego Llorente on Leeds exit, questions around Javi Gracia's future, and Tyler Roberts back at Leeds. Hey folks, Jer here at The View on Thursday, the 9th of March. I hope you're all having a good week. Sorry about yesterday. The more I went through the news, there just wasn't anything worth talking about, so I just thought we'd take a break from it for a day. Plenty today. We are going to get into the preview for the Brighton game, and we'll do it at the back half of the video, so we'll get the news out of the way first, and then we'll do that in the back half of the video. We'll start off, and just wanted to point it out, an interesting stat came up about Weston McKennie. There's been a lot of talk about his passing or, playing as number 10 for Leeds and how creative he can be. The stats that came out from the Premier League this week on game week 26, which was last weekend, no Premier League player completed more line-breaking passes than Weston McKennie. He completed 13 in that particular game against Chelsea. Now, it says completed line-breaking passes, so they're passes that have to go forward, behind the defensive line, and received by a Leeds player. So maybe there's more there than we think there is. Maybe. I don't know. Moving on. Let's talk about Adam Forshaw. A while ago, we said there was a possibility of a new contract for Adam Forshaw. Reports coming out today that it's beginning to look unlikely that Forshaw will get an extension to his deal at Leeds. He has spent longer at Leeds than he has at any other club that he's been at in his career, in his professional career. However, he's only chalked up, I think it's close to 80 appearances for Leeds in what's nearly been 4 years, maybe more, at Leeds. His contract is due to end in the summer. He's 31 years of age as well, and it is looking increasingly unlikely with the injury problems he's had again this season that Forshaw may not be given an extension to his deal, and we may be seeing the end of Adam Forshaw's time at Leeds, which the injuries are a pity. I like Adam Forshaw. I think he's looked good when he's played for Leeds. I think he gives, from a passing perspective, he's deadly accurate with his passes. It's just been a real shame that he's been dogged with injuries for the last couple of years, and unfortunately, we see the end of him. But why not? Maybe he starts it all out and he gets an extension. We have to wait and see what happens towards the end of the season. Diego Llorente, he has been talking with a couple of places about his time at Leeds and his exit from Leeds currently. And he's opened up about his Leeds exit, and he was speaking to Radio Marca Donacita. And what they have said is that the main reason he left Leeds was to get a fresh challenge. That he's the kind of player that wants to constantly challenge himself and get better day by day. He said it was a relatively strange period at Leeds after the pandemic with the empty stadium and then stop-start season this year. But he wanted to challenge himself. He also jumped at the chance to move to Roma after having a conversation with Jose Mourinho, a coach he rates very highly. What he did say about Leeds was that he was very happy, but in the end, my objective has always been to improve day by day and try and gain new experiences. It's unlikely he'll come back to Leeds, although he hasn't played a huge amount of time. I think he's only played a couple of minutes so far for Roma off the bench. Although they do have a suspension this week, which means he probably gets some game time midweek and maybe at the weekend again as well. So he has a chance. Mourinho, it says that Mourinho's normal loan strategy would be bring players in and play them, but because he is looking at a longer strategy with Llorente, he's not in a rush to blood him just yet. So he has time and he'll use that time. So that's interesting. A strange report came out this morning from iNews in Spain saying that there are now question marks already at Leeds around Javi Gracia's future. What they've said is the Leeds feel that they've recruited well in the summer and in January, but they're unsure whether Garcia is the man to get them ticking. It's thought that and the issue is whether Garcia can actually get them. And the quote is high octane, fast foot, pressing style of football, what we're used to under Bielsa. And they're unsure whether Garcia's style will give them what they want. I think the first thing to say is I think he's done a good job so far in just strengthening the defense a little bit, making us look a little bit more secure, eliminating those pullback tap-ins at the back post, dive balls across the box for easy goals. That's all gone. He's trying to strengthen the defense up. I think you've got to look at this, and there's an international break coming up. He'll have more time to work with the players. But yeah, he has to keep the team up. So right now it has to be effective football, maybe more than pretty football. We've been here before and we know what that looks like. But if he can make us more solid to the back, nick things on a counter-attack, then maybe Leeds get the wins. They need to get out of trouble. So I don't think there's a huge amount in that story, if I'm being very honest. So yeah, we'll talk about it. Tyler Adams, let's talk about him. He has returned to Leeds after a lengthy spell out with an injury. QPR have sent him back to Leeds, and they are hoping that he will come back to them before the season ends, but they reckon it will be the latter stages of the season before he comes back. He's only played 18 games all season for QPR. He's been dogged with injuries pretty much since the start of the season. He's had a very stop-start time there. It's very reminiscent of his time at Leeds as well. He's still a young player, but he has this consistent injury problem every single season where he misses chunks of the season and can't really get into any kind of flow. It's been unfortunate for him, but he's back at Leeds temporarily under observation and getting treatment before he possibly heads back to QPR should his injury recover before the end of the season. That's going to be it for the news for today. We're going to move on now and have a quick chat about Javi Gracia's press conference and the setup for the weekend. Right, Leeds versus Brighton this weekend at home. Huge game for Leeds against a Brighton team who are in free scoring, good form at the moment. Garcia gave his usual closed press conference. We got a few questions around players' availability, and we saw Adam Pope ask a couple of Q questions in a slightly different way instead of asking about injured players. Asked about a lack of goals with Leeds, Garcia said that he needs all the players available and all the options. And he said, they're working with more players at the moment, and if training goes well this week, then maybe we have more players available in attacking areas coming into the weekend, maybe hinting at Sinister and Rodrigo. But he said we would plan with what's available to us anyway, and we push forward and try and get a result. And he was asked about the next 3 games and the home form being important. He said it's crucial for us. It really is. He said playing at home, we play better, and the supporters are a massive, massive part of that. So we've got a couple of winnable home games coming up that could help us to move if we get the results in the right directions. Adam asked about how Sinister and Rodrigo have trained this week, which is a really clever way of asking what's the injury update without asking what the injury update, because he's made it clear he's not telling us. Good question, and I got a good answer as well. He said that they've started to train with the team, but they're going through a process to get integrated back into training with the team. He said the next training sessions will be used to evaluate them for the weekend's game. But he said we can wait another week if we have to. So Rodrigo is ahead of schedule, and Sinister again has had a struggle this season with injuries. In his career, he's struggled with injuries, but I think there's a good player in there, and if we get him past these injuries, he'd be a massive player for us coming to the end of the season, especially from a creative perspective. Asked about Bamford's form, he said he's an important player. He said he doesn't know what his level was like before he got here because he wasn't here, but he said from his perspective, his job is to help him to be the best that he can be. Chris Armas came up. They asked what's the situation with Chris Armas. He was initially part of the coaching staff in the background, but he hasn't been seen on the sideline the last couple of games. And what he has said is he is not part of my staff. He said that he's not here, and the club can probably answer that for you better than he could. So Chris Armas currently, according to Javi Gracia, not in Leeds at all. Willy Gnonto was brought up on his option of playing as a second striker after Roberto Mancini's comments about him playing as a striker for Italy. And he said, look, it's a good option against Chelsea. He played as a second striker for a period. He then moved him back out to the left towards the end of the game to try and make a goal. But he said he can make a difference in pretty much any position that he plays in, whether it's on the left, on the right, or up front, or as a 10, or as a second striker, he can make a big difference. Sam Greenwood also came up after a very impressive display for 21s. I know not everyone is a big fan of Sam Greenwood. I am. I think he's got a tidy passer. I think if you can get more energy out of Sam, I think there's a player in there. Maybe pushing him into a 10, into a second striker role is exactly what we should be doing with Sam. He doesn't mind a battle. He's a physical enough player, and he's got a lovely left foot from a set piece delivery. We just don't have anyone that can take good set pieces, and Greenwood's the one. There's got to be a way of getting into more form to get him into that team. He was asked, is he a striker? Is he a central midfielder? Where do you play him? After watching the under 21s? And he said, look, the under 21s have had a massive part in helping Leeds prepare for games. He's been very impressed with them. Asked about Sam directly. He said, you would have to ask Sam himself where he prefers to play. He said, from my perspective, maybe I have to choose what's better for the team in those situations and look at the attributes that he brings to the game. He said he has the qualities to play on the right, centre mid, on the left, 10, or as a second striker as well. And he said, I have to pick the best qualities that I think are right to get the most out of Sam in the team. Team first mentality, which is very important. On asked then about changing style of play in order to get more goals, he said that and to bring the fans into the game. It was a weird question that suggested that the Ellen Road fans weren't supporting Leeds in the game, which I don't think is true at all. And what he said was, we need the fans. The history here states that and shows that they've had a huge impact in what we've done, and they're very important. But he said it's something that I don't like to think or talk about, because if I say it, then it suggests that the fans aren't doing it already, and they are. So he said we know that they play a big part and will have a big part to play in our remaining games. So, strange question. Jorginho Ruto asked about him and his time at Leeds and the price tag weighing him down. He said, look, he's a young player. He's going to need time to get to the level and the best level that he can possibly be for Leeds. But he said he always tries his best. And he said that he's not a solo striker, but he has done that role without complaint, and he has just done the job that he needs to do for the team, side before self. But he said he can play out wide, he can play in multiple positions, and he will be an asset to the team. Aspinall was number 9. He said, look, if he plays with 2 forwards, it's probably the best position that he can play in. So it's an interesting one. He doesn't give a huge amount away, Garcia, but I think this is a massive game. Brighton are in really good form. They've got a couple of players. Tariq Lamptey is back available for the game the weekend, I believe, as well. So they've got some players back. Leeds, big one with this will be counterattacks. Brighton like to counterattack, and they're very effective on the counterattack. If Leeds can limit the amount of counterattacks and slow Brighton down when Leeds haven't got the ball, I think that will help us in the game. Got to create more chances, got to take more chances. I think Rodrigo's huge if we can get him back. They've looked at his completion rate of shots in the 6-yard area. He scored every single one of them. He's been massive for us, playing as a 9. Said it for 3 years, playing as a 9. So it's got to be an interesting game. It's a massive game. I think we could get a result out of this. The most important thing against Brighton is to get a result. I think 4 points out of the next 2 games between Wolves and Brighton. Either way, a point at home, 3 away, a 3 at home, a point away, I think is a good return for that. And then you go into April, when April's massive. There are some massively winnable games in that period and home games for Leeds. So, folks, that'll be it for me. Thanks for tuning in. As always, there might be a preview show over the weekend before the game with the American Leeds podcast, but I'll keep you up to date on that in the community tab. And as always, if you like the channel, you want to support us, you can subscribe. That helps us out a huge amount. And I will see you tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. See ya. Bye.